from hillbilly crime. You can't hide from hillbilly crime. You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair. Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound. Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines. Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't match the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Hello, good evening, everybody. How are you? Hey, y'all. Welcome in. Welcome in. Come on in. I'm just catching up, getting the very last few little things ready for the show. How is everybody? I hope everybody had a great day. Let's see, what is today? Today's Tuesday. Did you have a great Tuesday? Well, my name is Elizabeth, and this is Hillbilly Crime, if you didn't know already. I think we've got a whole lot of new viewers. We also have a whole lot of returning viewers, of course. But we do have a lot of new viewers. And so I thought it would be really a good thing to kind of recap on the Scott Blair case here. It's from Perry County, our neighboring county. One of the biggest cases that we follow is the judge and the sheriff. Kevin Mullins and Mickey Steins. But that's mainly just because I know I'm familiar with them. I know them personally, or I knew them personally. The surrounding counties, not so much, like Pike County and Perry County. I'm not as familiar with the players over there, but I am trying to educate myself on all of the big players. I think that it's really important to also kind of look at where we are in the world today when it comes to drug trafficking, sex trafficking, the kinds of things that is happening around the world today. A lot of times we feel like, or we tend to be like the last ones to get touched by things. And so I'm trying to pull something up here. We're the last ones to get touched by things because we're so far back in these mountains. And so, it just takes things a while to trickle up to us. Well, I had it here and I don't know what I did with it. I had something that I was going to read. And I don't know what I did with it. All right. Well, oh well. I will move on. How is everybody? Welcome, Dolly fan. Hello, Hillbilly family. And hello if you're new. Now you are family too. That's right. That's right. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to. Our subscribers are really, really down this month. So I don't know what we're going to have to do to try to get them going up. We've only gotten like 250 subscribers since we hit 25,000. We hit that 25,000 mark and kind of stalled out a little bit. That's all right. That's all right. Hit that like button for us, y'all. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that like button. And okay. Now, one of the things that I wanted to really talk about is the substance abuse, the drug trafficking. We're going to be talking about organized crime. Cover up, baby. Cartel cover up. We don't have a lot of minorities that live up in the mountains. You have a very small population of minorities. And so I don't think that people tend to think of cartels being in Appalachia, but they are. Now, several years ago, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you saw an influx in some South American, I don't know what descent, if they are Mexican or El Salvador or whatever. I'm not a geography major. Spanish speaking descent, I guess maybe is the best way to say it. We had an influx come in several years ago, about 15, 20 years ago. And a lot of them opened up Mexican restaurants here in Appalachia, or well, in southeastern Kentucky. And you ended up getting at least one restaurant in just about every little town, major town. And now I've never, not the first time, have I heard of one of the restaurants. Now, let me just speak in Letcher County. I had not heard of any of the restaurants being associated with substance, drug trade, any kind of drug trafficking. Let me take that off of there. I had not seen any of that or even heard of any of that. Organized crime talk. There we go. We're going to talk organized crime. But I think it was a couple months ago, we saw a big restaurant in Harlan, Kentucky. The DEA and ICE came in to Harlan, to the Mexican restaurant, and they arrested a ton, but they arrested a bunch of, I guess, illegal, but people who were illegal, they weren't citizens. You know what I'm trying to say. And so they arrested a bunch of them there, and then we've got a little Mexican restaurant here in Jenkins, and it's been run by the same people for several years. And Alan told me one day after he got done with practice or school or whatever, they usually go up there and eat, and him and his friends. And he said that the police came up there and got one of them right out of the restaurant. And he was very popular around here. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew him as, one of the workers there at the restaurant. And so I guess maybe he must have been not a citizen himself, which I had no idea. But I just, I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. Why was DEA there in Harlan? I don't think that they said anything about them being charged with drugs. But is it trafficking? We're talking about trafficking, not just trafficking drugs. What we're talking about here is trafficking people. That is what I think that we are looking at. It's a trafficking ring of anything that they can benefit from, make a profit from, or that's part of the ring, they'll traffic. I want to read this. And Smacks is one of the big ones that's making the rounds here. Kentucky prosecutor. Now this was, is this the Lexington Herald? Yes, it is. And I want to read the other one first. There's a hazard one, and I think it's the one that talks about the victim. Gives a, yep, there it is. The Hazard Herald. This was just last year, guys. September 5th, 2024. Former Perry Commonwealth's attorney sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. Former Perry Commonwealth's attorney Scott Blair was sentenced in a hearing on September 5th to serve more than 4 years in federal prison. Well, guess what? He deserved to serve a whole lot more than that. Remember, Ben Fields only got 6 months in jail? Blair, 52, was facing between 46 and 57 months in prison under federal sentencing guidelines. According to court documents related to his guilty plea on a charge of wire fraud related to allegations he was using his position of public trust and authority to assist various individuals that were facing criminal matters in Perry County in return for both sexual favors and methamphetamine. Yes, because our Commonwealth attorney was a big meth head. Yeah, our Commonwealth attorney. So that's the one that's upstairs. It's the same one that would be Butler's equal, just in a different county. So he was the one that did that prosecuted all of the felonies. Period. Drugs. He was over drug court. He was the prosecutor over drug court. Who was the judge? I'd like to know who the dang judge was all these years. I mean, I'm sure it's easy to find out. I'm just not familiar with Hazard and Perry County Court. But is that, the judge would see their prosecutor every single day in the courtroom. Your coworkers. Think about how you see your coworker every day. Would you know if all of a sudden your coworker was went from being a normal, non-drug user to all of a sudden being an overt pay drug user? And methamphetamine is a completely different animal. Have you ever talked to people who are on meth? Or have you ever had a conversation with somebody who has come off of it later on, and then they tell you stories of when they were on it and how they actually saw the devil, or they saw demons? They had a spiritual encounter with the devil himself, or with his demons, one or several of them. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from people who said that it was like it opened a portal to hell, this methamphetamine, that it awakened their spiritual side, but not in a good way, because it didn't awaken the connection to the Holy Ghost. It awakened the connection to the devil. And I sure believe it. The details of the visions that people have relayed to me are just terrifying. They're absolutely terrifying. So my point to that is, this is a prosecutor who is doing these drugs and then going in court after he's made one of the defendants give him an old BJ up in holler somewhere. Yeah, a prosecutor. And he wasn't charged with none of those charges. Where's the sex abuse charges? Where's the drug trafficking charges? Where is anything that would make him register as a sex offender? And guess who's responsible for that? The feds. The office that works southeastern Kentucky, they're the ones responsible for that. So that prosecutor negotiated a great deal with Ned Pillersdorf, because Ned was his lawyer. Ned was his defense attorney. Yes. So don't think that old Nettie Pooh is all for the girls, all for the victims. No, he negotiated the deal of the century for Scott Blair. Let's finish learning what he did. It related to his guilty plea using his position. Okay. In a memorandum filed August 28th by Blair's attorney, Ned Pillersdorf. Pillersdorf asked that U.S. District Judge Robert E. Weir, so that's who it was, sentence Blair on the low end of the sentencing guidelines based on several factors. So he got low end, including Blair's acceptance of responsibility, which is good. You know, we like to hear somebody admit what they did, but it was a guilty plea. It was a guilty plea that he got the deal of the century on. So I'm not really ready to give him a big pat on the back for that. As soon as Blair was arrested, I think I skipped some. Weir, however, went with the higher end of the range. Oh, interesting. Sentence, but it was still only 4 years. So if he would have approved the lower end, he probably would have got like Ben. But he ended up with the higher end, which was only 4 years. I mean, you would think that our legislatures, because that's who's responsible for this. That's who we can thank for this. We can thank our legislatures that are up there making these laws and that are making these sentencing guidelines and stuff. I don't know who it is. I don't know who does all this stuff. But they do not think very highly of victims in the state of Kentucky. And somebody thought that it was a really good idea to start pushing laws that would protect guards and men, well, and women, whoever decides they're a little bit of a horny toad and can't keep their pants zipped. So I guess, there was a whole conversation somewhere between all of our legislatures that decided it was a good idea to put it in the books in Kentucky that if they are a guard, they are to get some sort of leniency. I think that is absolutely outrageous. As Blair was arrested in April, Pillersdorf wrote, made a full confession and freely admitted the full range of his criminal conduct. Moreover, Mr. Blair promptly told Pillersdorf that he needed to immediately resign as Commonwealth's attorney, resign from the Kentucky Bar Association, and have his name removed as an unopposed candidate for Commonwealth attorney in the November 24 general election, Pillersdorf wrote. If he had not, think about this, if he had not got caught, he was running again, unopposed. Unopposed. I mean, if we could just get some people to go to law school, you could come, and then just from here, we need licensed attorneys in this area to run for office and kick all these people out. But you have to be licensed. You have to go to law school. You have to be a lawyer. You can't be a prosecutor unless you have a law degree. Can't be a defense attorney. Can't be a judge. But, who's going to even want to take those jobs? I wouldn't. I think about it now. Yeah, I know 10 years ago I wanted it worse than anything. Now you couldn't pay me to go down there and get involved in all that drama, because that's all it is a bunch of drama. Could you imagine actually trying to do your job right? Think about Mickey Steins. Now, I don't know if Mickey was trying to do his job right. I tend to think that he was. I tend to think that he had good intentions. But I know you've heard that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You can start out with all the best intentions in the world. But you get in with the wrong crowd and you start seeing the kinds of things that are really going down, and people, it's no different than anything else. Like when you first go to prison, I've always heard about the candy bar on the bed thing. If you go somewhere and you come back to your bunk and there's a candy bar laying on your bed, don't take it and don't eat it. Because if you do, then whoever put it there, they're going to come back to you later on and they're going to want payment for that candy bar. And that payment may come in many different forms, but it may not come in a form that you are thinking. Hi, Pinto. Long time no see. We got a whole bunch of oldie, well, originals. Oh, geez. I had to think her. We got some OGs in the house. All right, let me get back here. Further, Pillersdorf wrote, Blair has had a long-standing battle with severe depression and has been totally addicted to methamphetamine for approximately 13 years. 13 years. How long do you think he'd been an attorney at this time? And none of his coworkers knew that he was addicted to meth. None of his coworkers knew that he was meeting defendants up in the heads of these hollers. None of his coworkers ever noticed anything. They didn't know nothing. Oh, BS, BS, BS. I would be really interested to hear what Mr. Blair has to say now. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't y'all love to hear what he has to say now? After the judge has been shot and all that stuff. Commonwealth's attorneys generally earn $115,000 a year. I think Matt Butler even makes more than that. Just about all of our public officials make about $100,000. The circuit court clerk, Mike Watts, he makes about $100,000. Most of them, I think, are like at 115, around there. I think one of them was like 98, but I don't remember which was which. The PVA office, Letcher County PVA. Oh, Ricky Rose, buddy, he sure got him a big old payday when he won that election. And all of them. I think the only one that didn't make a whole lot was like Jamie Hatton. But here's the thing: how does an attorney who, and not just one, every one of them that works in the county attorney's office, every attorney that has worked in the county attorney's office and the Commonwealth attorney's office has worked as a prosecutor and at the same time has worked as like personal injury in their private practices. And I was told by another attorney, they're not supposed to be allowed to do that. They're not supposed to be allowed to do that. But who was going to stop them? And they still do it. They still do it. They have private practice where they do like Social Security, car accidents, car wrecks, stuff like that. Well, how can you be a prosecutor and prosecute those kind of cases and then have that private practice on the side where you do both? I just think that it would be a really big conflict of interest. And the people's cases that you're taking are from your county, you know? Anyway, as the financial records in the case indicate, Mr. Blair is literally in debt. It is clear that his various methamphetamine suppliers are the cause of Mr. Blair's insolvent state. I'd like to know what the financial status of Judge Kevin Mullins was whenever he died. He was supposed to also have struggled with addiction all his life. The whole time he's been an adult, it's been alleged that he was a pretty hardcore partier. And a lot of these men are hardcore gamblers too. Gambling is a huge, and drinking alcohol. Alcohol is a big part of this circle, this professional perverted circle. And I guess you didn't fit in if you weren't a pervert. You had to be a pervert to be part of it, I guess. Pillersdorf wrote that Blair has already suffered public humiliation. Well, but so I guess, the way that he says that, it's like, he's already suffered enough. People say that about the judge. Oh, well, he's already suffered enough. Well, I mean, the judge ain't no longer here. But just because they are outed and exposed does not mean that they've suffered enough. That is not consequences for their action. Those are part of their consequences for their actions. But that does not even begin to pay the price of their punishment. It wouldn't be for us. My butt would be under the jail, and I wouldn't get out. Pillersdorf wrote that he's already suffered public humiliation, and his arrest and incarceration has been a subject of national news. No, it ain't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I understand that there were a few newspaper articles about it, and I'm sure WKYT probably did a short story on 11 o'clock news or something about it. But no, these cases were not like national news, like the shooting of the judge. None of this other stuff was ever outed in the community and into the public knowledge. Like, you didn't see any posts on Facebook about it. You didn't see any of these you didn't see the Mountain Eagle writing articles about Ben Fields and sharing them. may have wrote one like at the time when it all happened, but they didn't write any more than that. They just wrote one at the time, and then it went away, and people forgot about it. People forgot about it. That's what happens here. Life goes on. Tomorrow's another day. As a part of the sentencing process, a total of 62 individuals filed letters of support on Blair's behalf. And guess what? They all came from his church. Sounds familiar? Sound like the big support system that Michael Clark has, doesn't it? People don't care. Oh, he was raping men and women? What? Boys will just be boys. Addicted for 13 years? Well, he must have been a what's it called when you're able to work? A functioning addict. Oh, he was a functioning addict, so it wasn't that bad. They give him excuses. I would have loved to have heard Ned Pillersdorf going on the media, doing the media rounds at that time, and then to hear him now. Ask him now. If anybody talks to him again, ask him. Ask him, how does he feel to represent both sides? To represent the R wordist and represent the victim. I mean, everybody deserves a defense. I just would like to know. Because he comes off in every interview that he does since this has come out. He comes off like he didn't know that this was all going on in Letcher County. Like he didn't know that the judge was a dirtbag. Yes, he did. Whenever he was my lawyer and he had to come over to Letcher County and deal with Letcher County Court, he knew they were all dirtbags then. We weren't dealing with any smeck stuff. But the more that has come out and the more that we've learned about it and just how widespread it all seems to be in the legal system, no way did he not know. And the fact that he represented Scott Blair last year, as a matter of fact, he was representing, it appears, he was representing Scott Blair at the same time that he was representing Sabrina Adkins. Now, I understand Letcher and Perry are two different counties, but they're still very close together. And it would have been nice, don't you think, if some investigator somewhere would have connected the dots. What? You mean if you've got a prosecutor in one county committing sex assault on defendants and you've got a judge in the very next county, or a bailiff, and you got rumors of the judge, don't you think that would be enough probable cause to do an even deeper investigation to see exactly how many were committing this crime? It's a crime to extort and rape women. especially ones that are in the legal system. Yeah, it's not a really good idea to do that, you know. According to an affidavit filed in the case, cooperating witnesses reported that they had conducted methamphetamine transactions involving Blair at various locations in Perry County and in Fayette County. So now he's traveling. He's traveling county across county line, so that would make it statewide. I mean, this is a federal investigation. These were federal charges. He was accused of some big federal crimes. But everybody's waiting for the feds. Everybody's waiting for the feds to come in. Somebody said the other day, well, we're just waiting for the right people. We're waiting for the right people to give the... I don't think there is any right people. Even if the feds did come, you gonna trust them? You gonna turn your evidence over to the feds? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would be saving my money, and I would be sending that evidence to a lab, an independent lab, and I would just have to pay for it myself. That's the only way that I would turn loose of any physical evidence that I had. Just me, personally. Because I don't trust any of them. Not even the feds. They have been after Judge Hall on the other side of Letcher County in Pike County. Judge Hall has some new updates we'll talk about here in a second. Another cooperating witness, the affidavit said, told investigators that they had known Blair since the late 1990s and would provide Blair with cocaine prior to the epidemic of methamphetamine occurring in Perry County. So I've always heard that snow cane is the preferred rug of a lot of the officials, and not just the officials, even several of our police officers. Letcher County's finest. They like that snow cane. Oh, yeah, they sure did. That cooperating witness said they used their relationship with Blair to assist in reducing or mitigating the charges and or the period of detention for three separate and different subjects. Now listen to that. Did you hear that? Now, how is that different than the way they talked about Sabrina and Jennifer with Ben? It was all, they used their relationship. I mean, I kept waiting for them to bring up these women on criminal charges. Like, they took advantage of this poor, pitiful, stupid man that, was just so vulnerable. And they took advantage of him. I mean, Matt Easter is the biggest joker, I think. And I have tried all day today to find a photo of Matt Easter, and I've not been able to find one yet. So anybody who can dig up some pictures of Matt Easter, Detective Matt Easter, I want to see what you look like. I want to know who you are. I want to know about your career. So we might have to do some public records requests to find, we're going to dig on Detective Matt Easter. Provided Blair with quantities of methamphetamine. According to the affidavit, one of the criminal cases in which the cooperating witness asked Blair to intervene was in Taylor County, and 2 were in Perry County. In those Perry County cases, the affidavit said the defendant on whose behalf the cooperating witness was working both received probated sentences, including one person who was facing a potential sentence of 10 to 15 years in prison related to various felony charges. You mean like Patrick Little? Patrick Little was facing like 30 years in prison. And Matt Butler, our Commonwealth attorney, was his defense attorney. Well, then they appointed Matt Butler to be the new prosecutor. And since there wasn't nobody around, heck, Butler and them just worked out the deal for his own client. For his own freaking client. He was able to be defense attorney and prosecutor. And his client came out of there with 5 years house arrest and work release. Not 1 day in jail. Not one, for abusing one child under 12 years old and then her sibling who was under 16 years old. And he's Judge Mullins' buddy. Yeah. You mean those kinds of favors? You mean those kinds of lenient treatment? I know that didn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. In another instance, the affidavit said, I'd like to get a hold of that affidavit. That cooperating witness believed that Blair had given them a warning about a potential law enforcement investigation into the witness. Sounds like Ben, doesn't it? Kind of giving them a little bit of inside information. Ben gave all of it. He gave all the inside information. I'd say Blair did too. Man, I wish I would have had me a dirty connection whenever I was struggling. I didn't have a connection one. No, they made sure they buried me under the jail every time. I did not ever get any kind of lenient treatment. For which Blair was compensated. Oh, okay, let me reread that. The cooperating witness believed that Blair had given them a warning about a potential law enforcement investigation into the witness, for which Blair was compensated with a quantity of methamphetamine. So he sold information, is what they're saying, or took a bribe. I mean, you know, they could have charged this guy with all kinds of felonies. How did Ned Pillersdorf get him out of there with honest services fraud? That's all he pled guilty to, y'all. How is that even allowed? Well, I mean, I could see it if he turned state's evidence and ratted somebody out, but he didn't rat nobody out. There wasn't nobody else got arrested. But you know who I think somehow is going to end up being connected? I think this is a string. I think this is a syndicate that goes all down the eastern side of Kentucky. And not just the eastern side of Kentucky. You got to think about the pathways that these drugs and stuff are coming in here. You've got I-75. That's a big corridor. I think you've got 95 on the other side. That's a big corridor. Let's see, 23. And I'd say it's probably going to be connected Lexington, Louisville, London. Now, we have watched several of the city council meetings. You know, those funny city council meetings where everybody's screaming and yelling. And the last one I think we watched, they had impeached the mayor. Or I think they impeached him. They kicked him out of office anyway. The city council did. They voted and they kicked him out of office. Well, somebody, whoever, maybe a court or somebody, went behind them and reinstated him. But that's also the same exact town that we find a potential serial killer with a real torture chamber on his property in Kentucky, you guys. He was just arrested. He was a huge informant for the DEA. In 2020, the cops got a tip. In 2020, it was a photograph. Somebody had snuck a photograph. This guy had a cell, like a jail cell, but this ain't in jail. This ain't in no jail building. This is in an old white building, 2-story building, like a little farm loft or something on top. On private property, way back in the rural area. So, you know, they could scream all they wanted to. Nobody's going to hear them. Nobody's coming to save them. Somebody sent it that picture in as a tip to like the tip line or something. And it was of a woman being held against her will. I guess that's what the picture looked like in the upstairs of this place. They get out there and they find human bones. They find a torture chamber complete with like this killer chair. It's like a chair that's got nails all sticking out of it everywhere. I mean, this is a real torture chamber. And and they show up 5 years later on the welfare check. Well, there wasn't no girl in that cell behind those cell bars. She was gone, whoever she was. You think about how many people have went missing. You think of how many people have died. I think this man working for the DEA, I think he's going to be involved. You can't make it up. I mean, this is what nightmares are made of. A fourth cooperating witness, according to the affidavit, advised that they sold Blair meth on at least 15 different occasions in 2021 alone. The witness told officers that they conducted the transactions with the expectation that if they ever got in trouble again in Perry County, that Blair would help them. I mean, this is just how things are run here. It's not a shock that this was happening. I mean, it is, but it ain't just because we know how bad it is here. It's a shock because this ain't what our system was set up and designed for. You know, people, I think the part where it says that like prosecutors, the whole prosecutors team, the court in general, the court is to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Even if they're not doing anything improper, if it looks like they are, then they're to avoid it. Stay away from it. Don't do it. But, numerous instances were located in which Blair requested something of value, including sexual favors and methamphetamine, from multiple individuals in exchange for taking actions in his official capacity to help those individuals, the affidavit said. Yeah, because, they're just trying to help. They're just trying to help these poor drug addicts. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, they completely fail to realize, you've got a sex addicted preacher that, heck, what we found out last night, his organization isn't even registered as a church. They call it a ministry, but it's not even registered as a church. It's registered to take government money and donations from the public. That's a little sly thing there, ain't it? You would think that it would be registered as a church, since that's how he is putting it all out there. As long as we label it a ministry, as long as we say Michael Clark Ministries, everybody will just assume it's a church. We can call it a church. We just not register it as a church. Nobody will ever know. One of the victims quoted in the affidavit characterized Blair as being someone that catches people struggling in life. Does this sound familiar? They're predators. They catch people struggling in life, having a hard time with hardly no family out there to help them. And he gets them in a bind and blackmails them to do things for Blair and makes them promises. That's what Ben did too. Ben made all kinds of promises. He caught all of them in a very bad position in life. He caught the ones that didn't have any family, but he didn't discriminate, because he did ones with ones that did have families too, and he about destroyed their families. None of that gets mentioned. That they about destroyed their family. Could you imagine if your wife or your husband had to have sex with their parole officer, and then you found out about it? And even though they were forced into it, could you imagine having to deal with that for the rest of your life? That relationship between them and their spouse will never be the same again, ever. They'll never be able to trust each other. That trust will be broken. It's not just the trust, it's that emotional scar that somebody else was with your spouse, or that your spouse was with somebody else sexually. A lot of people are not going to be able to deal with that. A lot of people are not going to be able to deal with that. And they would never get over that hump. But, that part is just never even mentioned. Never even mentioned, because it was consensual. Easter kept wanting to say it was a relationship. They were just cheating on their old man. And what struck me was that each one of them, Jennifer and Sabrina both on recording said that they felt so bad for his wife and that they didn't want to talk and they didn't want to bring all this out because they felt bad about the judge's family and they felt bad for Ben's family. They had more compassion for Ben and what his actions had done to them and their lives. They still had more compassion for him and his family than they ever did, any of them ever did for these girls. That's a shame. That's a big shame, shame, shame. And it says a whole lot about these two women. It says a whole lot about them. They were much better people than any of these turkeys that we're talking about. That victim also, let's see. Another victim who told officers they had delivered meth to Blair approximately 30 times. So you see, he was doing this big time. Like he was using the court big time in his scheme. This wasn't just a man who was addicted to drugs. This man was using his position to take advantage of other people and to maximize his own pleasures. It looks to me like he tried to get as much drugs as he could get, and he probably tried to get as much smecks as he could possibly get. Because math, from what I've been told, math makes people real smexual. Like people want to just have smecks all day long because they would go all day long doing it one time, and that's all they want to do. That's all they want to do. It's crazy. Cray, 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 buddy, cray. But you also think about it. It all goes hand in hand. The drugs, the sex. And if they're not getting the girls to do it for them, they're passing them off for their buddies. You know, Joe Schmo in Pikeville is having a big party. They're having a big party at the cabin this weekend. And they need some girls. Well, I'm sure then they'll gather them up a handful of girls and give them, from what I was told, the way that the private parties worked, they would send out like I don't know if it was an email or a message or what, but they would send the invite out, and then they would put it in the invite that they would receive another communication right before the time of the party with the location. So it was kind of always a mystery. It was always kind of like a private, they kept the location very private because think of what they were doing. Duh, of course they're going to keep it private. This is criminal what they're doing. Even though to them, they're all just being big dogs and seeing who's got the bigger wanker. My mommy called it a peeing contest. Who can pee the farthest? The victim also reported to officers that they eventually became uncomfortable with the arrangement with Blair and began to decline his demands. At that time, the affidavit said Blair turned on them, recommending they be terminated from the drug court program. Does this sound familiar? It's Ben 2.0, honey. Blair had helped them receive as a sentence. In addition, the affidavit said the victim was eventually sent back to jail for violating probation and remained in jail at the time of the writing of the affidavit. Blair has been held in various jails since his arrest in April. For more on the September 5th sentencing, check out September 12th edition of Hazard Herald. And so that was, you know, just one. That's just one example of what we're looking at here. I got another couple articles we wanted to look at. There was one that talked about Ben. Okay. This was just a couple days ago, I think. October 5th, 2025. Mother disputes police account of son's fatal shooting in Nicholasville. What that press release is saying is lies. Mother of Nicholasville shooting victim speaks out. Now, Nicholasville is up around Lexington area too. A Lexington mother is challenging the Nicholasville Police Department's account of her son's fatal shooting at a Nicholasville apartment complex Thursday morning, saying the 31-year-old was gunned down outside during an argument rather than while attempting to break into an apartment. James Milton, 31, was shot and killed at an apartment complex on Edgewood Drive. His mother, Samantha Milton, was also shot in the arm during the incident. According to Nicholasville police, the shooter alleged that James attempted to force entry into the apartment after a verbal dispute with his girlfriend the previous evening. Police say when leaving, James saw his girlfriend enter the shooter's apartment and kicked the door in an attempt to gain entry, prompting the gunman to shoot. What that press release is saying is lies. It's not true. If he did it, I'd tell you he did. By George, he didn't do it. Not this time, Samantha Milton said. Samantha sat down with LEX 18 to share what she says actually happened that morning. He said, I need you to come now. You know, the neighbor's kind of running his mouth. I said, fine, I'll be there, she said. When she arrived at the complex, Samantha Milton says James was outside the apartment arguing with the shooter. I'm telling him, James, come on, he's not worth it. James kind of just flinched like that, and the guy opened fire. James fell against the wall, hit the floor, rolled over, looked at the guy, she recalls. You just shot me. Rolled his head back over like this, put his hands like this, and took his last breath. Samantha Milton says her son was on the other side of the complex and never kicked down any door. They were saying that we were shot inside that man's apartment. I don't even know what the inside of that man's apartment looks like, she said. He would never have hurt her. He would never have put his hands on her. She was in no danger. James Milton's older sister, Erica Morrison, described him as one of 4 siblings and the life of the party. Wasn't nothing he wouldn't do. Wasn't nothing he wouldn't try. Wasn't nothing he wouldn't do for you. Wasn't he just... He was an all-around awesome person, Morrison said. Life is short, you guys. It's very short, and there ain't none of us promised tomorrow. None of us. Things like this happen every single day. The judge sure didn't think that he wasn't going to go home that day. This boy sure never thought he wasn't ever going to leave that apartment complex. Things happen so fast. And if we're not ready, If we ain't, I hate to preach, but if we ain't ready, we're SOL. Poop out of luck. So another sister, the only thing per that press release that is completely true is that completely 100% true is that him and his girlfriend were arguing, Morrison said. Another sister, Jamie Milton, was at work when she received the devastating call. So I was at work when she had called me and told me he had been shot and killed. She acknowledged her brother had flaws, but disputed any characterization of him as violent. He had his flaws. Everybody does. Nobody is perfect in this world whatsoever. Everybody has their flaws, but he was not a violent person, she said. Police say the gunman has not been charged with a criminal offense, but the shooter remains under investigation. Samantha Milton says she's lost and heartbroken without her son and wants the truth of what she says actually happened to be heard. My son took 4 bullets for me. I took 1 for him, she said. I want justice for my son. Somebody's going to pay for my son's death. James's cousin, Gabrielle Adams, also released a statement regarding his death. Our family remembers James as brilliant, unequivocally funny, kind, rational, selfless, and endlessly loving. To us, he will always be more than the circumstances of his passing. He will forever be remembered as a son, a cousin, a friend, and a man whose spirit touched everyone fortunate enough to know him. To us, James Weezer Milton was more than family. He was our heart. At just 31, he was thoughtful, protective, and full of love, always lifting others up with his smile and his kindness. We will remember him forever for the joy he brought into our lives. James was a deep thinker, a peacemaker, and a man whose smile and kindness lit up every room he entered. He was not selfish or violent. He was thoughtful, loving, and protective in the best way. His life mattered, and his death was senseless. Our family will honor his memory while continuing to call for truth, accountability, and justice. We will honor James, and we promise that his life, his truth, and his justice will not be forgotten. Gabrielle, the victim's cousin. Well, that's sad, ain't it? Alright, it's all starting to get us. Let me pull this other one up. I think this is it. Yep.
Good morning, Laurel County, and all of Kentucky for that matter, and all of the United States, because this is going to affect you as well. So as most of you know, and this is going to be a lengthy video, but as most of you know, Randall Weddle was reinstated as mayor of London, Kentucky. Now, I know there's a lot of people disappointed, and there's some people that are happy, and that's fine, whichever way. I was an anti-Weddle person, and so what we need to understand about this is the broader implications of what Randall Weddle does. And the way we need to look.
Just sorry, I didn't even tell you what this was. So this is the expendable guy. He has been following the Mayor Weddle debacle in London, Kentucky. Now that's where the mayor was unseated by the city council, and then he was put back on in as mayor. And I'm not really knowledgeable on all of the details of this, So that's why I like to listen to him, and why I wanted you all to listen to whatever he has to say about it too, because he knows a lot more than I do.
At this is through economic ties that are bigger than what we think. Randall Weddle is a Democrat. Let's not get it twisted. This guy's not a Republican. So he is an infiltrated Republican placed into a heavy red area to migrate people to the left. That's what he's there for. They brought him in with this big money. He bought himself a governor. And yes, I do know about the bribe. So one thing for Randall Weddle is this whole time that you're leading this community, you allowed your family to act as your goons. Now you can go after the city council all you want. That's fine. But your family went after the people of Kentucky, the people of London, the people of Laurel County. At not one time did you tell your people to stop going after them. Now, you might say, well, they were going after us too. Yeah, let me tell you a story. When you're a politician, you lose that right. You don't get to retaliate against people. And just because you say, well, it wasn't me, your family acted on behalf of you. And you did zero to say, hey, guys, I can't speak for people outside of my family, but my family needs to stay out of this. And you didn't do that. You allowed it to happen. You enabled it. We even saw a screenshot from your pictures on the I Support Randall Weddle page that you were supplying to that page. So you are part of that problem. And for you to make a video saying we need to bring peace, and yeah, you're right, that needs to happen. However, you can't be part of the problem and then say we need to bring it together. You need to own up. Accountability is something that's not in your vocabulary. Now, for the people of Laurel County, he still has to. He still is liable for the Doug Harless situation. That's not going to just go away. And the KSP is going to paint this in whatever way they want to paint it. But at the end of the day, after you look at every single angle of the Doug Harless situation, there's no possible explanation that they're going to be able to give to justify that situation that is going to make any sense. That's why they're taking so long, is because they can't find a way to make it go away. They're going to have to hold somebody accountable. And Randall Weddle's going to have to pick somebody. Now, the city council's not off the hook because they have just as much ability as well. And if Randall Weddle's not giving you access to the police department, then y'all need to go back and impeach him again, because that's part of your job as city council. City council oversees the police department as well. So to sit here for you guys to sit here and point the finger at Randall Weddle, y'all are just as fucked up as him. You're just as responsible for the Doug Harless situation as well. It's part of your oversight. How none of these people have been held accountable is beyond me. Now, broader implications, as I said, we want to talk about energy cost.
Because who's going to hold them accountable? There's nobody to go to over them. Andy Bashir is the top of the food chain, and he's the one that's appointing all these people. Him and his daddy appointed Judge Kevin Mullins, and then Andy Bashir appointed his brother-in-law, the butler. I mean, don't they have to do like a credit check or something? I'm sure he's got perfect credit. I'm sure he does.
Now, Randall Weddle is going to be part of that energy cost problem. Everybody keeps saying, how does AEP keep raising our bills? Okay, Randall Weddle bought Andy Bashir. Andy Bashir sold out Kentucky is exactly what happened. And it's way more complex than that.
And Jamie Hatton's sister, Angie Hatton, who allegedly is a civil rights attorney right here in Whitesburg. Who'd have ever thought we'd had a civil rights attorney here? Sure ain't seen no civil rights cases been filed anywhere. Anyway, she's on the PSC board. Andy Bashir seated her right on that three-member panel that approves every single rate hike that is requested by our power company, the only one that we have that has a monopoly on Eastern Kentucky, and makes sure that the poorest counties in the country have the highest power bills in the country. If you guys saw the power bills, if everybody out there wants to send a screenshot of your outrageous power bill, if you want to mark out your name or whatever, or if you send it to me, I will mark out. I'll blur it. I'll blur any identifiable information. But you can do it yourself if you want to. But if you don't know how, I'll do it for you before I show it. But I'd like to show the power bills of our people here in Eastern Kentucky. Honey, we better start sticking together. And this, like, you don't have to send it to me. Send it to somebody like me. But this is the only way that enough people will hear what we're dealing with. And it's the only way that enough people will be able to speak out. You know, the voices, that you've got a silent majority. Remember that? The silent majority. There's a silent majority here in Kentucky. And we need their voice. It's the only way to get these people out of office. We have to come together and get people to be candidates, I guess is the only way to say it. We need candidates. Please, everybody, start thinking of an office that you think that you would be good to run.
And I could make a whole 10 series videos on how Andy Bashir sold Kentucky. All these liberals are going to get on here and they're going to go, Andy Bashir didn't do that. Yes, he did. So when Andy Bashir sided with the Biden administration and invited these
Yes.
coal regulations in, now let me give you some facts. In 2001, Kentucky had the cheapest power grid in the United States. What changed? By 2023, you guys were the 12th cheapest.
Kentucky
so your energy
power.
costs are going up rapidly. Why? Recently, it's because the Biden administration put restrictions and put environmental restrictions on your coal industry. Because 95% of your energy in Kentucky is generated from coal.
Yep.
So that's what happened.
Yep.
Andy Bashir supported the bills, the Green New Energy Bill, that killed your energy grid and killed your expenses in Kentucky.
Yep.
He just single-handedly destroyed your energy bills.
Yep.
Now, Randall Weddle keeps funding him. Here, have money, have money, have money, have money.
Why?
When I was going through his voter campaign funds, I didn't see Randall Weddle donate to a single Republican on there. And I don't want to hear nobody on the Weddle camp say Donald Trump MAGA, because y'all support the enemy. You are supporting the high energy cost and the destruction of Eastern Kentucky. Did you know that Kentucky is the 6th most impoverished state in the United States of America? Kentucky is also labeled as the 10th most corrupt state in the United States of America. That's under Andy Bashir's watch. This is the problem that nobody in this state is trying to address. I'll sit here and I'm going to keep going after these people and exposing them, because that's what American people do. When I'm done here, I'm going to move on to another state. After I'm done with that state, I'm going to move on to another state. And I'm going to continue to build my NGO until I've got about 50 investigators, and we're going to go through all these states and expose them all. And I'm just a little upset about it, because I know what happened. I know how Randall Weddle got his seat back, and it's sad that happened. It's sad that it happened that way. He wants to say democracy came back and restored justice. That's not what happened, and we all know that. Now, there is also an audit still happening in Laurel County in London, Kentucky. So I'm waiting to see what those results are. Now, if you do what Paris did, you'll just get those results from the investigation, and you'll go, oh, this is really damning towards our city. We better just stick this underneath the rug so nobody in the public sees it, because that's what Paris just did. And they're not letting anybody do an open records request on it. They're giving you 1,000 reasons why they're not going to give it to you. But that's what Randall Weddle is going to do with that audit when it comes out, because they're just going to hand that over to the city and go, here, deal with it. But as we know, Randall Weddle has a lot to do with that bad audit, and so does the city council. Now, they all want to point fingers at each other, but they're all part of the same bullshit pot. Now, I haven't been very critical of the city council, but now I'm going to be, because they're just as at fault. And the people of Laurel County and the people of London, Kentucky, and Randall wants to talk about, oh, the people from outside of the county. Screw those people. They don't matter to the taxpayers of London, Kentucky, or Laurel County. We don't care about them. They got their own counties and their own corruption issues that they need to be dealing with, not worrying about what's going on in your county. So that's where the people need to continue to pay attention, continue to point out injustices, continue to hold these politicians accountable, because just because Weddle is back in office, it doesn't mean it's a defeat. It just means y'all have more work to do. And I encourage everyone to really take a look at the relationship between Weddle and Beshear and the Biden administration, because they're all interlinked to help destroy Kentucky. That's all I've got. I'm out. Peace.
Okay. All right. And then we're going to tie it together. With cartels. Oh, okay. So let me just read this. Recent law enforcement actions have highlighted the presence of the Sinaloa cartel in Kentucky, with significant arrests and drug seizures indicating a growing concern over drug trafficking in the region. Think about how many counties have been like they pull people over, traffic stops, they do all these raids or whatever they're doing. I don't even know. I think the majority of this stuff that they're confiscating is coming out of traffic stops. That's what it looks like to me. A lot of them, they put them right on the hood of the car. So people are traveling with this stuff. You have to remember, a lot of people are probably homeless. They don't have a home to be doing all this. So they're naturally going to be traveling with that stuff, whatever they've got. But anyway, recent arrests and operations. In early September 2025, the DEA conducted a targeted operation across Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, resulting in the arrest of 51 individuals linked to the Sinaloa cartel. That's in 3 states. 51 people in 3 states. This operation was part of a broader effort to combat drug trafficking and included the seizure of 133 firearms, nearly $9,000 or 9,000 counterfeit pills, and Now, this is the part where I think this sounds awful low to me. It sounds awful low to me. 78,000 in cash. That sounds awful low. So, I don't know about that. The DEA emphasized that the Sinaloa cartel poses a significant threat to public safety and health across the United States, with its operations extending deeply into local communities. If the cartel is in Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, which we know it is, but if it is, think about all these little girls and stuff that have went missing. Like, it makes me think of that little summer girl that went missing in Tennessee. She could have just been snatched right off the side of the road. Somebody could have seen her in town, followed them home, and snatched her as soon as they saw her, out by herself. I'd say these little girls and boys, they probably bring a lot of money. They probably sell them. She'd probably be the right age for something like that to happen when they got her. Man. But that's just me speculating. Thinking of a theory. Lexington as a regional hub. Lexington has emerged as a regional hub for drug cartels, plural, particularly the Sinaloa cartel and the Cartel de something, the CJNG. The city's strategic location with access to major interstates like I-75 and 64 facilitates the distribution of drugs to larger cities such as Detroit, Chicago, and Atlanta. The DEA has noted that while these cartels operate widely across the U.S., the immediate danger to average citizens in Lexington is considered relatively low. Implications of cartel activities. The presence of these cartels in Kentucky has raised concerns about the increasing availability of dangerous drugs, particularly fentanyl, which is primarily trafficked by these organizations. It's all changed. Everything is meth and fentanyl now. There for a minute it was heroin and, oxys, opioids. But they've changed it. And I think it was Armand Crystal was saying that her brother was on meth, and to get treatment, to be able to get into a treatment center, to get the treatment that he needed, he wasn't on opioids. He was on meth. Well, what these stupid doctors, because it's all money, they don't give a damn. They really don't. Suboxone does not treat meth. It does not treat it. I mean, I don't know how many ways can I say that people get it. It's for opioids. It's not for meth. But all these doctors, to get the money, they can get more money. I think Crystal said they made him take opioids so he could get it in his system, so then he could test positive for it to be able to get in and get treatment. That's what happened here too. I can't tell you how many times they'd send them away because they didn't test positive for the right drugs. And so they'd have to go out and get on something else and then come back and have it pop in their urine screen. The DEA has reported that nearly all fentanyl in the U.S. originates from Mexico, with the Sinaloa and the whatever cartels being the main suppliers. This situation underscores the ongoing challenges law enforcement faces in combating drug trafficking and ensuring community safety. And that would be a really easy payment, wouldn't it? They want girls. Well, we got the drugs. And they got the money. Because who's getting it all? Where did all the money and the drugs go that were confiscated by our county? Where's it all at? None of the audits tell where it's at. Nothing with evidence is ever discussed. There's no reports of evidence. There's no reports on evidence lockers. Where do you find where they even sign in? They have to have an evidence log. Where's all that stuff at? And who is supposed to be looking at it and making sure that it's all on the up and up? My Lord, our sheriff's department has been run like a super trooper on steroids for the last 20 years or longer. It's unbelievable. Let's see. And that was Scott Blair. Drug problem hits families. Now, this was a long time ago, but it is talking about Matt Easter whenever he was younger, I guess. Drug problems hits families, police in small town. This was Beattyville. And 2003, I think, was when this was written. 2003. Weapon of mass delusion. The popularity of common painkillers became a big problem in a small eastern Kentucky town that affected many, including a former homecoming queen, court officials, and local law enforcement. The effects of drugs, particularly the prescription painkiller OxyContin, on the Lee County town of Beattyville was the subject of a story published Sunday by the Lexington Herald-Leader. The story was part of a series of articles by the newspaper on drug abuse and its damages to eastern Kentucky. OxyContin swept into eastern Kentucky several years ago, resulting in hundreds of addicts and dozens of dealers. And nearly the entire town of Beattyville has suffered from the problem in some way. The Herald-Leader reported, in 1984, Michelle Moore was crowned homecoming queen. By 2001, Moore had become a drug addict, abusing OxyContin and methamphetamine. A single mother of two and wanted by police for selling drugs. Inside her mobile home, she had taken down her high school photographs. I couldn't look at my pictures to look at what I was and what I'd become, she said. Moore says she had been to drug treatment 3 times since her arrest in December of 2001. But addicts aren't the only ones affected by the drugs. Local prosecutor Tom Hall's stepdaughter stole from him, court records show, to buy painkillers from a man who later pled guilty to dealing drugs. The owner of the local diner, Hazel Davidson, had to post bond after her son was charged with selling OxyContin in 2001. And former circuit judge Ed Jackson's wife swore out a warrant in 1997, accusing their daughter of assaulting her. Charges were dropped later. By court order, the girl was sent to drug treatment. Shortly afterward, police arrested the son of Magistrate Ronnie Paul Begley for having a syringe full of Oxycontin solution. With such stories of lives undone, Beattyville police unveiled Operation Grinch, a Christmas-time drug roundup in 2001. Police fanned out across Beattyville to arrest more than 4 dozen alleged drug dealers, including more. How come they're not doing that no more? This is what I was talking about with Operation Unite. Whenever Operation Unite started, it was back in the late 90s, and it was a law enforcement task force. So it wasn't all about putting people in rehab. Back then, it was about putting them in jail. They were putting them in prison. And, you know, I mean, at that time, you had so many drug dealers. I mean, Oxycontin and pain pills had turned just about every grandma and grandpa in this area into a drug dealer. I mean, church going every Sunday morning, church. But, you know, they weren't able to pay their electric bills. These electric bills just kept going up, 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 up. But grandma's got a bottle of Oxycontin in there in the bathroom mirror, medicine cabinet. I can't pay $1,000 power bill this month. I only get $900 on my check. How am I supposed to pay $1,000 electric bill when it's more than what I draw for the whole month? And then their grandson shows up and says, "Oh, well, Grandma, what do you got? You know, I can sell those for $100 a piece." Well, I got 90 of them. That's $9,000. She'd pay her electric bill now. And you got people that have been poor all their life. Poor. I mean, poor. People away from Appalachia don't know poverty in the mountains. You could not imagine what people live like here and how people have to survive in the mountains. It's really, really bad. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. After arranging, in planning the drug sweep, the city was forced to devise, execute, and even fund its own large-scale crackdown, something that had never been done before. In fact, in the 90s, 2 former Lee County sheriffs and a former police chief were arrested by the FBI, charged with protecting drug shipments and obstructing a drug investigation, which happens here all the time. After arranging a deal with a local bank, cash was advanced a few $1,000s at a time over several months to the 5-member police department. By the end, Officer Matt Easter and his partner, Captain Joe Lucas, spent $15,000 on the Christmas time bust. Neither officer had done undercover work before. They got a state police detective to give them a crash course. The 3 of them sat in an unmarked state police car in the parking lot of a grocery store and went over the right way to document a drug buy, how to set up tape recorders, and other details. So they're self-trained. They're self-taught, I guess is what that's saying. Afterward, Easter and Lucas went back to their office, called an electronics company, and ordered the same kind of recorder the state police use. They also typed up an evidence form modeled after one the detective gave them, substituting Beattyville Police where it said Kentucky State Police. Easter and Lucas found it wasn't easy trying to run a drug sting in a small town. The Beattyville Police Department couldn't spare them for full-time drug work. The two would spend hours on routine reports only to get off shift and then work on the drug investigation. Much of the extra time was unpaid, the two said. The first undercover buy was in June of 2001. 4 bags of poor quality cocaine totaling 1 gram for $100. Over the next 5 months, police said informants made 85 more purchases. The list of alleged dealers grew to 8 pages. It included sales of methamphetamine, cocaine, Mary Jane, Lortab, Xanax, Oxycontin, and other drugs. The purchases continued through late November. In December, when it came time to start arresting people, police set up a booking area at the fire station because the police department was too small. Carl Noble was one of those arrested. Said the scene was kind of like going to a high school ball game. It was crowded. So, we know that Detective Easter has been working in Eastern Kentucky for a very, very long time. So he knows better. He knows better. He knows this area. He knows what's going on in this area. And I'm more convinced now than before, if I could be, but I'm more convinced now that everything he did was intentional. I mean, there's absolutely no room, like there's just no possibility that was ignorance. Nope. No way. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. And we will pick back up tomorrow. We got, we've always got something. All right. Thank you, Jesus, for another day being able to come together in your name, Lord. We're so thankful for just your presence. I know I am. I'm just thankful and grateful that you're with me, Lord, and that you love me. I'm thankful that you loved me until I could love myself. And I kind of love myself now. Thank you, Jesus. I love you, Lord. I pray that you forgive me for my sins. Every single day, I still fall short, and I always will. But I try, Lord. I try to be better tomorrow or today. I try to be better today than I was yesterday. But I pray that you will help me to be better tomorrow than I was today. I praise your holy name, Lord. I lift you up above all. You are my everything, Lord. I'm so thankful for the favor that you give me, Jesus. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Until we meet again tomorrow, Lord, we give you all praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. It's a little short one. Yeah. All right, guys. Peace out, Girl Scout. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Bye.
Can't hide from hillbilly crime. You can't hide from hillbilly crime. You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't match the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.